Good morning. Good happy Tuesday morning, everyone. First of all, I'm going to start off by showing you this. Now, that's the Hindu tattva symbol, and the yellow square is the symbol of earth, the element earth. And so a yellow square inside of a yellow square would be earth of earth. And that's exactly what the Princess of Discs in the tarot is. She's earth of earth. And also, you see a I Ching hexagram of earth, and that's the hexagram that's called the mountain, or keeping still. So the reason I'm showing the Ace of Discs would be the spirit of earth. There's the black egg of acacia, or the spirit of earth. Now I'm going to show you the Hindu tattva in the form of a bag. And inside the bag, I've got 4 homemade dice. There they are. Now I made these out of the kind of clay that you can buy down at a craft shop, that you can form and then just stick in your regular oven to heat up. And so each one of them looks like that. And on half of the sides, I've got 2 little dots. And on half of the sides, I have 1 little dot. Where is it? There. There, we'll put it that way. 1 dot or 2 dots. And there's 4 of those. And when you roll these dice, you'll form a figure that is a little stack of figures, either 2 dots or 1 dots, and that represents a geomantic symbol. And there's 16 of those, just like there's 16 court cards in the tarot. Why am I telling you all of this? Because today's chapter in Allow Me to Introduce is my introduction to my friend, my dear friend and brilliant scholar, John Michael Greer, his Art and Practice of Geomancy. And I wrote the foreword to his 209 edition of that book. And that was published by, that's published by Weiser, of course. And so with that little introduction, I'll go on to read my foreword. But if you were on my Facebook page, and you must be if you're not watching this, if you just scroll down to a little thing that I posted last night before I went to bed, it's a picture of the countryside of south east England. It's just a gorgeous green pastoral scene. Now, it was that scene that I'm talking about in the opening of this foreword. It has an epigram by Francis Bendick, who was probably Aleister Crowley. Seek earth, and heaven shall be added unto you. I love the earth. The driver pretended he didn't hear me. From the moment he collected me at the airport in Bristol, he allowed me to sit silently and be seduced by the charm and splendor of southwest England's green and pleasant pastures. I stand corrected, southwest. Radstock, near Bath in Somerset, was my destination. It was an area of the UK I'd never visited before, so I had no idea how long I'd be able to savor my chauffeured religious experience. Never had I seen so many shades of green in my life. It felt like I was living inside the swelling phrases of Blake's great national hymn, Jerusalem. A countenance divine did indeed shine upon these clouded hills. It was heaven on earth. No, this was heaven of earth. I rolled down the window and inhaled the perfume of grass and soil warmed by the sun of mid-July. I love the earth, I said again, this time under my breath. I closed my eyes as if to take a snapshot of the moment, and I was surprised to feel a tear burst over the lower lash of my right eye and coolly evaporate in the wind as it ran down my cheek. I assure you, in my jaded heart, such sensitive moments are a rarity, and usually occur only after the fleeting seconds that follow the first and second sip of a late afternoon martini. This day's rapture was most likely induced by the stress and debauchery of visiting 5 countries in 7 days, and the realization that after this lecture, I'd be returning home to my own bed. Whatever the cause, I was drunk on earth, and wished the driver would stop the car so that I might stretch out in the field and soak the verdant ground with my tears of love. The mental image of such an awkward and unseemly act immediately erased such daydreams. But for the first time in my life, I realized deep down to the very core of my soul that the earth is a living, breathing, conscious being, an intelligence, a goddess, and that I was her child. My flesh, her soil and mantle, my blood, her rivers and streams and seas, my bones, her stones and mountains, my heartbeat, her molten core, my soul one with her soul. What more palpable deity could humanity seek? What God more wonderful, more worthy of our awe, our gratitude, our prayers? We must certainly honor the sun as the ultimate source of light and life, but without earth to reflect the solar glory, without the earth and her manifold creatures, Sol Invictus would remain eternally a god unworshipped. Moreover, is not the earth herself sunlight made manifest? Earth is the climax of the Spirit's descent into matter, the magical lowest low that contains not only the spark of the highest high, but everything else in between. Earth is the alchemical laboratory that transmutes light into life. Earth is the crowning finality of creation, and we are conscious creatures of the earth. As such, you and I possess, we embody the secret of Spirit's return to Godhead. As it is written in the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, that one only thing after God is the Father of all things in the universe. Its power is perfect after it has been united with the spiritus earth. It is humanity's most ancient and self-evident fact of life. The sun is our father, the earth is our mother, and no matter how gender-neutral our culture may strive to become, it is the mother who first hears our cries. It is the mother who first responds to our needs. It is the mother who first answers our questions. How ironic it is, then, as we grow into headstrong youngsters, we become less and less inclined to listen to the voice of our mother. As hormone-blinded adolescents, we embarrassedly shun her counsel and ridicule her prophetic warnings regarding the dire consequences of our short-sightedness and foolish behavior. As self-absorbed young adults, we shut our minds completely to the possibility she could have in any way understand what our life is like, or what is best or not in our best interests. It is not until we've reached a significant level of maturity that we realize we've been blessed since birth with our own personal, omniscient oracle, one whose unconditional love for us is beyond all human understanding. For centuries, the art of geomancy has been a proper and respectful means by which we, as children of the earth, purposefully affirm our recognition of the earth as a living intelligence capable of answering our questions. The techniques and apparatus have varied from century to century, culture to culture, but its oracular vocabulary of 16 geomantic figures, each made up of 1 or 2 dots, neatly stacked 4 on high, have remained constant. My introduction to the art of geomancy came in 1974, when I purchased a tiny book by Israel Regardie titled A Practical Guide to Geomantic Divination. Its size was not intimidating, and Regardie's straightforward and seemingly sane approach to the subject made it all sound very appealing to a wide-eyed young proto-magician. An added attraction was the fact that geomancy had been, at the turn of the 20th century, the favorite oracle of members and adepts of the Golden Dawn. And oh, how I wanted to be like one of those Golden Dawn guys. My expectations were high, perhaps too high, for this oracle of earth. I envisioned hairy little pipe-smoking gnomes popping up in my bedroom temple to grumpily answer my questions and lead me to buried treasure in my backyard. What I found was what appeared to be an abbreviated and not very exciting variety of astrology. What does astrology have to do with an earth oracle? I was really hoping for something quick and easy. Something I could do without having to study a bunch of other stuff. Geomancy was starting to look like work. I nevertheless gritted my teeth and dug into that tiny book, and doing so received my first, albeit remedial, lessons on the nature and the basic meanings of the planets and signs of the zodiac, and of course the names and meanings of the 16 geomantic figures. I have to confess that my first attempts to divine with geomancy were, from my perspective, abysmal failures. Not only did I not know enough about astrology to get a clear answer out of the chart that my dot juggling had generated, but my interpretation of what I thought I did understand turned out to be patently wrong, as future events proved in objective reality. I asked, almost forced Constance to give it a try. Now, she has Taurus rising in her natal chart. She's got a green thumb in the garden. She's the darling of all animals, insects, and flowers. I hoped perhaps her earthiness would be more in harmony with the art. She protested. She didn't want to consult the dirt oracle. Still, she was a good sport, and reluctantly agreed to ask a question, and proceeded to generate her 4 mothers by the 16 throws of tiny pebbles on the kitchen countertop. Her efforts generated the dreaded Rubeus in the first house. Ouch, that's bad. When that happens, the book told us we were supposed to abandon the operation and not try again for hours. It's the geomantic equivalent of the gypsy fortune teller saying, "I see nothing. Go. Leave my tent." I did it for Constance. Or excuse me, that did it for Constance. And pretty much for me too. It would be a dozen years before I again began to develop any serious interest in the art of geomancy. Again, it was a book. The Oracle of Geomancy, Techniques of Earth Divination by Stephen Skinner. And if you've got it, get it. Or if you don't have it, get it, okay? That triggered my interest. It was a clear and thorough overview of the basics, and much longer and more involved than Rigardi's little book. Most importantly for me, it provided many tables, examples, and ways one could arrive at simple answers to simple questions. On board the geomancy train once again, I set to work to construct a tray specifically designed for geomantic divinations. Actually, it was a very shallow wooden box, 18 inches square and 2 inches deep. I lined the bottom with a thick layer of modeling clay. I eventually adorned the top and the outer sides of the walls with the 16 geomantic symbols and the names and sigils of the spirits, along with their planetary and astrological symbols. With a pointed stick, I marked out 16 horizontal bands in the clay. During the geomantic operations, I used the same stick to poke the random marks within the bands to arrive at the initial 4 mother figures. I reserved part of the clay surface to accommodate the mothers and the 12 other figures they generate. The deep permanent lines on the surface of the clay made it possible to execute the figure generating part of the operation entirely in clay without resorting to pencil and paper. I have to admit, it looks very magical and works marvelously well. The feeling that I'm working directly with the earth is powerful and unmistakable. Finally, I made peace with geomancy, and with the help of Skinner's book, started cautiously to consult the clay for insights on personal issues I determined were of an earthly nature. I also occasionally made myself available for friends and others who come to me for quick and dirty geomantic readings. Still, I was not yet a passionate devotee of the art. The works of Rigardi and Skinner helped me understand how the forces, energies, intelligence, and spirits of the planets and zodiac could speak through the element Earth. I was comfortable enough with the theory, but neither the book that had sparked the flame of true spiritual romance in my, but neither book had sparked the flame of true spiritual romance in my magical soul. I had not yet connected my heartfelt love of the earth to the cold manipulations of dots on a slab of clay. The catalyst that would eventually provide this magical link for me is the book you are now reading. When the publisher asked me if I would write this foreword, I was delighted to accept and immediately asked them to send along the manuscript. I believe the author, John Michael Greer, to be one of the most knowledgeable and brilliant esoteric scholars alive today. He is also a friend and a lodge brother whom I see far too infrequently. I do not exaggerate. I could listen to John Michael Greer talk all day and all night. His wit and insight breathes life into the movements and personalities of the dusty esoteric past. It is as though he is a time-traveling custodian of the Library of Alexandria, or a medieval magician, or a Renaissance magus, transported through time to share with us the brilliance and relevance of our rich spiritual ancestry. Something clicked in me when I read his historic vignettes in Chapter 1. The simple, quiet charm of these little stories were for me the last alchemical ingredient in my long experiment with geomancy. The vitriol that dissolved away all that previously prevented me from uniting my heart with my mind. I devoured the rest of John's magnificent book with the passion of a teenager who had just discovered poetry. I wrote him, "It is the greatest comment on geomancy ever written. I hope you will treasure it as much as I do." I close with Francis Bendick's quote, "Glory be to the earth, and to the sun, and to the holy body and soul of man. Glory be to love, and to the Father of love, the secret unity of things. Also thanksgiving in the highest for the gift of all these things, and for the maiden in whom all these things are found, for the holy body and soul of man, and for the sun, and for the earth. Amen." And that's it for today. Tomorrow it will be my pleasure to read the last of the chapters of Allow Me to Introduce. And it's I saved the best for last, I think. It's my introduction or foreword to the Wiser Book of Horror and the Occult. And so that'll be Wednesday's read. We'll try to finish it tomorrow. And starting Thursday, or whenever we finish this book, I think I'll read another one. Feel free to send me some suggestions. I know what my wife wants me to read to you next. And that's my book, Ask Babylon. And she has a lot of influence over me. which I too often ignore. But anyway, please feel free to send me your suggestions, and or if you don't want me to, if you want me to give it a break, I'll give it a break. But I'm positive I need these mornings uh, more than you do. Until then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.